I am a different type of Call of Duty player. Many play this series for the multiplayer, and I generally enjoy this too, but I prefer certain aspects about it, like playing Shipment or in Nuketown 24/7. For me, I'm more interested in the campaigns and co-op options that it has to offer. For a few years leading up to Modern Warfare 2019, it was a bit of a rough time for campaigns. For one, Black Ops 4 omitted the campaign entirely, which completely alienated me from it. Call of Duty World War II had the potential to be a promising return to the classic era of COD, and there were some elements that I did like about it, but the story felt like a checkbox narrative with weak characterization and writing. Big events would occur, and I just didn't care what happened to the characters, even though the game kept telling me I should. But Modern Warfare 2019 promised the return of the campaign, and I had a really good feeling about this. While Infinity Ward has seen a lot of turnover with their developers since they started, after playing Infinite Warfare, they definitely did not have a problem with telling a compelling narrative and providing a good campaign. I know that Infinite Warfare is not seen as one of the better CODs, but from a campaign perspective, it's easily one of the best and most underrated. Honestly, I would have preferred to have a 15 to 20 hour campaign, like with side missions, loadout customization for each mission, along with more zero-G and flight combat. And Modern Warfare 2019's campaign showed that they still got it, as the narrative acted like a prequel reboot to the original game. With the sequel coming out this year, I thought it would be a good time to revisit the campaign and discuss why it's so awesome. Modern Warfare 2019 is one of those remake reboots that I really like because in a lot of ways this is seen as a prequel to the original games. The developers are not trying to recreate set pieces and events from the first game, but rather create a new game in that style. Tone-wise, it's pretty close to the originals. Where the originals took on a more Michael Bay-like action, this reboot is just a bit more serious and a little bit more grounded. Nonetheless, the game fits right in. When it comes to the shooting, the impact ranges from good to great depending on the weapon, and the sound is simply outstanding in this. Modern Warfare 2019 has some of the best gun sounds for a mainstream title. Each weapon and action sound impactful, whether it is firing off any of the weapons or simply reloading your gun. A lot of time and effort was put into this area, and it shows. It also enhances every action scene of the game, as this layer of sound both heightens all of the shooting and adds weight to it as well. Something else I really liked about most of the gunfights are outside of the fun sniping situations, most of the fights are up close and personal. You are not removed from the action, you're in the thick of it for most of the campaign. When it comes down to the action itself, MW2019 delivers. Modern Warfare does a great job with variety. For most of the campaign, each mission will have these unique parts and moments to further the variety. For example, in one level you might have choices in how you tackle your objectives, while in another you're manning a deadly sniper rifle or trying to use stealth and disguises to distract the enemies. While only used a few times in the game, I do really like the clean house type missions, where you conduct a night raid and need to clear a building room by room. The music is usually turned off for these parts as you only have dead air, and the tension is building as you don't know what's on the other side of that door. Very short but memorable parts. It is kind of like a campaign of mostly fun gimmicks, as all of this stuff mixes well with the minute-to-minute shooting to keep the action fresh. So level 1 is a solid start, a nice build up and then some open action with options for the player to choose on how they want to tackle the outside area. I'm not saying this is the most open section in a game ever, but when Call of Duty is usually a more on-rails experience, stuff like this sticks out in a good way. And this campaign has some more of these moments. Towards the end is an intimately darkly lit section where you need to fight a handful of enemies who turn the power off. It is slower, yet easily one of the most intense parts about this level, and a good start for the game. In level 2, you are tasked with clearing each of the buildings, but what makes this level really enjoyable, outside of being within a heated attack in the streets, is that you can choose the order of your objectives. You're not forced to follow one route. It's up to you which way you go. Level 3 is a scripted stealth level where you're sneaking through an occupied territory. Towards the end, you can again choose the order of your objectives, and even what direction to take them in. It is a quiet in, loud out type of level. Level 4 is a big set piece event and acts as the explosion to the buildup from the prior level. Here you are attacking an airfield and get to control remote explosive RC planes to blow up a lot of stuff. There's plenty of choices here as well, with plenty of buildings to clear. And there's a few sections where you get to play around with other weapons along with controlling an air support at the end. Level 5 is your first night raid. This might be the shortest level in the game, but it's probably its most memorable. You slowly infiltrate a building, clearing each room, trying to identify enemies and innocents. What is appreciated is that the game lets you make those mistakes if you end up shooting someone who is actually not a threat. Level 6 has you trying to capture one of the enemy's leaders and is mostly full of enjoyable shootouts. Level 7 is another standout as it essentially is Call of Duty paying tribute to the film 13 Hours. The embassy is under attack and you need to work with Price to prevent your prisoner from being taken. There's a short section where you give commands to a civilian trying to escape. This part is really intense as it takes away most of the usual bravado from the player, and you're just trying to time your moments to survive. Level 8 is mostly focused on sniping. Again, this one stands out because the game goes all out with the dismemberment. I wish this was featured in the rest of the game. Level 9 is a flashback and is more so limited gameplay wise, since this is more here to service the story and really make you hate the main antagonist. Level 10 is a mix of another night raid and tunnel fighting. Level 11 is another flashback with a silly minigame where you are dodging water. I know what the game is going for here, but it just comes across as silly in the execution. The rest of the level is a fun shooting section. Level 12 is one of my favorites as it's a thrilling chase sequence. Level 13, you're given the freedom to tackle the objectives in whatever order you want, and there's a lot of options for stealth. The end is very explosive as you try to dodge an enemy air support. Level 14 is a final battle and it's a nice mixture of short-range fighting, sniper shootouts, and I like how you get to play as each of the heroes. It's a good way to cap off the campaign. Story-wise, I found the narrative to be really enjoyable. Price might have a new voice actor, but this guy fits the role and does a very good job. Something I loved about the campaign is that it's very high energy, appropriately bleak at times, and features our protagonist being heroic in a semi-grounded setting. The backdrop to the conflict is also delightfully 80s, featuring the Middle East and the Russians. The cutscenes are well directed and gorgeous, along with those transitions from cutscene to gameplay. Again, I love how this game is very much its own. This isn't a reboot or remake where it tries to re-hit moments from the original game, but rather it provides an original prequel that fits in well with those prior games, and saves the fan service for the final moments. This is a good example of a reboot or a remake done right. When it comes to the flaws with the campaign, I only have a few. After replaying the campaign a few times, I really didn't care for the two Farah levels. I like her as a character, but these missions honestly hurt the pacing of the stellar campaign. The first flashback as kids is very slow and very in your face with how bad the bad guys are. And while this is a series where crazy stuff happens all the time, I can buy our heroes surviving outrageous situations and action scenes. But when you have two kids taking down a bulky Russian soldier, I find that a hard pill to swallow. In the second flashback, you need to avoid the water, and this just comes across as very silly for what seems to be a very serious part, and it took me out of the story a bit. And lastly, the main antagonist is very serviceable and kind of underdeveloped. Overall, the campaign is very fun, mostly moves at a brisk pace with very memorable levels. When it comes to the sequel, I hope that the campaign can keep up the momentum that this game brought. What I don't want to see from the sequel is them starting to re-hit moments from the original games. I do not want to have a highlight reel of those big moments. There can be nods and moments of fan service, but what I want this team to come up with are new original moments that achieve what the old games did in a new way. And as a side note, I loved when the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3 included the co-op Spec Ops mode. These missions were an absolute blast, along with the survival horde mode in 3. The missions took moments from the campaigns and made them into bite-sized co-op missions, or created something new out of an old campaign level. When this was brought back in Modern Warfare 2019, this was easily one of the most disappointing aspects to the game. The missions lacked that same love and care that was seen in the originals. The survival mode was poorly balanced, along with the new raid-like Spec Ops missions. Sadly, the developer never actually worked to fix this area of the game either. It was created and then forgotten about. It seems that this is coming back in the sequel, so I am hoping that the group of developers working on the co-op now does a better job than last time, because if you're going to bring back Spec Ops, you better do it right. I still love returning back to the campaign, and for just that, I would highly recommend playing it. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.